everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Profitable Prescription Podcast,
hosted by Dr. Mehrdad Hariri. Join us every week for insightful discussions about the future of pharmacy business.
Welcome to another episode of Profitable Prescription Podcast. I'm your host, Mehrdad Hariri, and today we have a special guest with us, Ken Heineman. He's the owner of the B&W Pharmacy that has been serving Inverness community in Florida since 1932. Ken, it's a pleasure to have you here, Ken. Welcome to our show.
Thank you, Mehrdad, and it's so wonderful to be here. And I thank you for your invitation to share my experiences.
Okay. Hey, Ken, before we dive into our discussion, could you tell us a little bit about, your journey into the pharmacy and how long have you owned your pharmacy? I know your store has been there since, 1932?
Yes, it has many different owners throughout that time span. I bought the store in 1989, about 9 years after graduating college. I graduated in 1981 from St. Louis College of Pharmacy and came across an individual who was gearing up to retire and thought this was a great time. If I'm ever going to get into an independent store, it would be now. I had married, so it was a really nice journey. Let's just say that. The pharmacy back at that time, and when we acquired it in '89 and fully bought out in 1992, it was a completely different environment or profession back then.
Right.
It has evolved and changed to a point that I don't recognize any longer.
To say the least, right? To say the least, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, we face, through the last decade, our industry has faced a lot of transformation as the way we do business and how we can, look, profit is not a bad word.
Right.
What we need to grow and expand. And PBMs, which is what's called a pharmacy benefit manager, have been instrumental. Shortly after prescriptions began to be filled by Medicare or D,
right,
we saw some little acronyms, and they were called DIR fees, either direct or indirect, and GERs later, which is a generic equivalent rate.
Right.
And then they said, well, what are these? These, in a sense, are what was called clawbacks. And clawbacks meaning they wanted to get the best price they possibly could. They said in exchange, they take it back from the pharmacy that dispenses a prescription. It started out to be small and insignificant, almost like these spammers that get attached to your bank account, and they'll draw, $10, here or $1 there, and before you know it, they're sucking out thousands of dollars, which is exactly the case here.
Right.
So it makes it very difficult for us to manage our business, even to pay bills. Again, our industry has evolved. We've seen as much pushback from independent practitioners, many of them in the last 3 years being forced to go out of business.
Wow.
In pharmacy times, it's a pharmacy learning network, a pharmacist as early as this 2003 has taken on the big giants and taken them to court and suing them.
I heard about that. I saw that little article on Pharmacy Times. Yep.
Yeah. So what did they say, a DIR fee? Well, it's supposed to be a small percentage, and it's supposed to go and help pay for the people who use their Medicare Part D insurance plan for drugs.
Correct.
Does the Medicare plan ever receive that? The answer to a study I don't remember who it was, but it was an accounting firm. No, that money does not go back to Medicare. That money is in the pockets of the PBMs, the pharmacy benefit
exactly.
manager.
Correct.
So in 2021, the DIR fees represented a 33% increase over the time in which they started. So here we have it represents $12.6 billion in revenue that is lining the pocket of the PBMs, the three biggest being CVS, Caremark, Express Scripts, and Optum. So these people, and they represent roughly 80% of the population or patients that we are here to serve.
Sure.
I'm in a small community. It's very rural. I don't have a lot of commercial industry here or commercial insurance. So it is all Medicare and Medicaid.
I mean, that's significant. What you're describing to me, I think, of course, I've known you for many years now, and I've actually visited your old store where you used to be in the corner.
Right.
From Winn-Dixie, you had, 10,000 square feet of store?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
And you had everything. You had a diabetic supplies. You had all the medical supplies, and you were doing at the time. I remember you were doing pretty good. I mean, you weren't doing a tremendous amount of volume, but for the little town of Inverness, Florida, I mean, I think you were doing okay. And I think that all these changes with the Medicare Part D and the DIR fees, which all started in 2016. And again, I owned 3 stores, and the reason I sold my stores were just because of that, because I saw the 3% that that they imposed for the first quarter of 2016, which was $48,000. And I looked at it and I went home and I said, there's no way. I cry over a $10,000 audit or $5,000 audit every once a year or something. And now I got to pay $48,000, which at the time it was 3%, if you remember, Ken.
Right.
The IR fees were only 3%. Now it's at 12%. Just last week, I spoke to a pharmacy, and they do a large volume. He says that he pays, and I just could not believe, he pays $240,000 a quarter in DIR fees. I was like, wow, that's $1 million a year. But of course, they got high volume, but still, that's a lot of money.
Right. It is, and it really hurts because it stifles my ability to hire talented people.
Right.
We have to buy our medication, and this is the DIR fees. We're coming 6 and 7 and 8 months after we've already dispensed the prescription, so that money's already been spent. Now, let me tell you where a DIR fee and contracts evolve now. We are denied access to an insurance company or their patients simply because if we choose not to fill that contract or not to sign that contract for that DIR, we are prevented from saying, I can't fill the prescriptions for those people.
You can't participate in that plan. You can't accept patients coming with that plan to your store. Right. Yeah. I mean, that definitely, I definitely feel it. I mean, I've owned several pharmacies in Orlando for 25 years, so I definitely feel and I understand exactly what you're describing. And this is kind of painful for every community pharmacist that's out there working hard. And I actually speak to a bunch of pharmacists on a weekly basis, and some of these guys are telling me, listen, man, I mean, every brand name drug that I dispense, I'm losing money.
Oh, absolutely. Even today.
Right. Now, what do you think? I mean, you think that's because of what? Because of your cost of goods is a little bit higher? Is it just a reimbursement or a DIR fees? Or I mean, I see it all different ways sometimes.
It's probably a little bit of both. Better cost of goods. Can I squeeze another 2 or 3% out of the cost of goods? Maybe, if I'm lucky. The contract clearly is a dictating factor. Oh, was the other question, is this something to do with something I have control over?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have, you don't have a control over what you're being charged. I mean, you run the claim through, it comes back that, your cost was $100 plus 50-cent fee. Now we're going to take $15 away from you as a DIR fee. You're basically dispensing a $100 drug for $85. And, I mean, I don't know of any business that really they provide services or products to public and they lose money. I mean, that's incredible. Pharmacy is pretty unique when it comes to it. Now, there are ways that you could combat these kind of DIR fees. And I know that by experience, you and I, we've spoken several times about how you can improve your, these kind of, reduce your DIR fees and, kind of like move your business into like maybe cash business, right? I mean, we talked about free medication program, right?
Sure. We talked about that, and we took on some of the plans that you have put together and offer, and they've been successful. I'll say that our means by which to reach a customer. Who is our customer? We used to put an ad in the paper, radio, whatever. That's gone. I don't get the return as we did 10 years ago. Nobody reads a paper.
Nope.
So I had reached out to you before. We're trying some of the things that you've offered on like social media, Facebook, right. Twitter.
And I know you have a podcast too that the Pharma Talk. And we started a podcast for you so you can actually engage a lot of your patients and let them listen to you and see what you have to offer and talk about your services and things like that. But definitely you would just basically hit the nail on the head is that back then you put a radio ad or a newspaper ad and then customers come to your store. But nowadays things have changed. Now you have to switch over to digital media. What are those digital medias? Your social medias, YouTube channels. You have to have a good website. I know you have a pretty good website. You have to have some sort of a communication platform where you can actually engage patients and their own terms.
Sure.
So on and so forth. I know you're using those text messaging that we have into your advantage. Tell me about. I know one time Ken was about last year. I think it was last May that you called me and said, "Hey, Mehrdad, I've had like 500 people that bought these COVID tests from me.
Yeah.
How can I reach these guys to see if I can get a refill before it expires? I believe it was like May 11th or something like that."
Right.
I said, "Okay, Ken, dial in. Let me show you how it's done." And I remember that day when you run that 500 claims. I think you got about 72, 75 orders. I don't know what the final tally was.
I think within the time frame of just the hours that remained, yes, I think that's pretty close to the number. So remember, we started the broadcast, and by the end of, let's say I left at maybe 8 o'clock, 8:30. Those are the number of patients that we had wishing to get renewed. So it was a positive.
If you think about it, there was 72 patients. I saw it. It was like 72 patients said, "Yes, I need more." And you were saying, "Hey, Mehrdad, look at this." And I said, "Well, that took about 5 minutes." Remember, immediately people responded. And I said, "Well, Ken, how much do you get paid for these?" You said about $100. So not bad. $7,200 for a 5-minute job. That's not bad. So let's talk about the different things. I know you, let's talk about other strategies that you use at your pharmacy. I know you have access to our Tabula RX, right?
We do. We use Tabula for primarily a strong point is to get access to coupons that help patients save even on their copayment.
Right.
We use that for getting coupons for insulin. So we put out a insulin program for $35.
Mm-hmm.
There's even things like Ozempic. If we can get it, maybe we can, and if the insurance is correct, we can help them bring their copayment down to $25
Correct.
a month. These are things that ultimately help the patient.
What about the prescribing data? I know you and I I've showed you several times. You can type in a doctor's name, you can see what the doctor prescribed. I think that's one time that I believe it was about last year. You asked me, well, how do I use this Tabular? How do I, I got this, I can see what the doctors are prescribing. And we looked at it together and I said, hey, Ken, what you need to do, take a look at all your doctors. You're in a small town. You got maybe 50 doctors, 25 doctors or whatever. Take a look and see what these guys prescribe, right? And then we came up with a free medication program, right?
We did. I got a few. I got some out of it. I just needed to put that on an autopilot. People were coming in just for or let's say people or doctors. We sent them to physicians. Some of the prescribers, they did send patients here. It was just not as fast as I wanted it to be. A lot of the prescribers came in for medication needs for themselves. They wanted their medication for free.
Right. Well, there's always those cherry pickers all over the place, right?
Sure.
Those guys that want to, take advantage of something free. But I think when we discussed that, I said, hey, Ken, why don't you put that? I believe you have that on your website too. These are $35 insulin. It says
we do.
Free metformin and a blood glucose monitor. Right?
Absolutely, we still do. Still do, because that's the. Let's face it, the number of patients, or the patients which are the most profitable or have the most prescriptions, are those diabetics.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So we want to. Yeah. You need the medication, and I want you to get it here. So again, when we go back to the other thing. Yeah, we do all this great work and can provide everything. End of the day, we have to be able to gain access to these patients through their insurance plan. Hard thing is, this month alone, January, the insurance companies change and direct some patient to another pharmacy. And I'm scrambling to get access to them so that I can continue the savings that they receive here at my store.
Right.
They originally came here because they were not getting that savings at the pharmacy chain that they were previously going.
Right. And I know it was, what was it, a couple of months ago, Winn-Dixie closed across the street from you?
They did. Yeah, they did.
So how does that affect your business? Did it bring in some new clients in, I guess, thinking about switching to you?
Yeah, it does every day. Their prescription files were acquired by Walgreens, and some stores was CVS, and so we tried to catch them prior to the closure, but under their purchase contract, they had to get the medication transferred to their store, and then we could transfer it out.
Yeah, what a scheme, huh? Right.
The pharmacists are really overworked, or they're shorthanded, and we get our prescription transfers 2 to 3 days after our request.
Yeah, and they do it by design, because the more they give you, the more they delay that transfer, more chances are the patient's going to say, well, I want to stay with you, man. Just fill it right here. I don't have to get it. Right? Yeah. Yeah. So let's switch gear now, Ben. I know, Ken, because I know you do compounding and you have a nice looking lab and you do a whole bunch of stuff. And I've been to your store and I've seen your lab. It looks like a really nice lab, and you do a good job compounding. What's the latest on compounders? I know you and I know we discussed about you were trying to focus on semaglutide, right?
That's our main focus. And, we've been promising prescribers and patients for, I guess since September. And I'm here to say, guys, it's here and ready for you. This product is compounded from Rybelsus tablets, and it is in a sublingual form. And the dosing is it's a very low dosing. It's very similar to when you get an injection. It's the the amount of semaglutide that you would have in your bloodstream for those 7 to 10 days, but you're taking it every day. So reduce side effects, not a bolus dose once a week. And there's no, since it's a compound, it's not a insurance covered entity. It is something that we'll make up specific for them, and we're tailoring. What are we going to do? Tailor the flavor. We're tailoring the dose specific to that patient, where they stand in the however the doctor wants to dose it.
Right.
So it's a sublingual, like a suspension, but we deliver it's a drop, and you put it under your tongue. You leave it set for 30 seconds, and now don't eat for another 30 minutes. And you're there you go. It's easy to titrate up, and it's easy to back off if necessary. So the patient receives a 30-day supply. And, there are other companies out there that we've been trying to partner with PSGA. And that was in an injectable form. So we'll be able to offer a compounded injectable form and or the sublingual.
Yeah, I mean, what I would like to announce is that, like you said, is, real soon we actually have contracted with a company, a manufacturer that we will be providing these semaglutide injectable. As a matter of fact, they just got approved with the pen too, so you can either in the vial or in the pen form, and you can provide these right at your pharmacy. And the beauty of it is now, Ken, is that, we discussed this. We have ExpediCare, right? So I'm giving you a doctor. So you can send the patient a text message and say, hey, see the doctor. The doctor will prescribe semaglutide injectable. The prescription will come back to you. You have those vials, and it doesn't need to be refrigerated. That's the other thing. And it's good for 280 days. And you can just dispense that right to the pharmacy, to the patient. And guess what? It's all cash, right?
Right.
And on average, you could be, making almost 200% or 150%, which is a pretty good markup for cash business. You do 5, 10, 15 of those a day.
Right.
That amounts to a good amount of cash business coming to your pharmacy. What I want to touch upon is, I know you mentioned those low-dose semaglutides that you do in a drop form, right?
Yeah, right.
And do you just use any kind of a suspending agent for that?
Oh, no, my goodness, no. It's a great question. The semaglutide is a very large, high molecular weight product.
Right.
It is not easy to get into the bloodstream.
Right.
So there have been probably a year of study and development of a product called Submagma.
Mm-hmm.
A Submagma is a unique base or vehicle that will take the semaglutide, the large molecule, and move it into the bloodstream, whereby we don't have to add something like an oral, what is a DMSO? That was what some pharmacies...
back in the days, you put DMSO. That was back in the old school.
Yeah. And you had a bit of a garlic flavor or taste to it.
Yeah.
Don't need that. This is going to be cutting. This is really, really going to be cutting edge, because there's so many other. It opens the door for so many other high molecular weight products, and it's not just semaglutide. It's going to be other GLP-1 products. So let's just theoretically say in the plan, long-term plan, is if semaglutide is not sufficient, and we want to go ahead and do tirzepatide as another GLP-1,
Yep.
that can be added added to the semaglutide in itself, so you get the benefits of both drugs.
Oh, yes, I have seen some formulation, a combination of those drugs. As a matter of fact, I was speaking to a company that provides some sort of a peptide supplement. I don't know if you've heard, but there's a peptide supplement that patients that want to get on semaglutide are placed on these peptide supplements for, let's say, a program for like 30 days. And that kind of gets their body ready for semaglutide to reduce a lot of that GI side effects and things like that.
Sure. Makes sense.
So, yeah. So, just to our listeners, I mean, you guys need to pay attention to this because this could be a game changer. I mean, we're all complaining about DIR fees not making enough money, but then all these opportunities are out there that, we need to harness. And how do we harness these kind of stuff is by using technology, right? Using telemedicine, texting, reminders, basically, any kind of you're getting data about your providers in your area, knowing who's around you, what they prescribe, and then being out there. And the nice thing also about it is that when you have these type of preparation, you could be selling these to doctors' offices or clinics or vet, right? I mean,
absolutely. That's another business model in and of itself.
Yeah, exactly. I know a lot of pharmacies that are actually, doing a real good job. There's a local pharmacy that I know here. You probably know them too. And I mean, they have done a fantastic job in the last 20, 30 years. And they have a huge direct from pharmacy to practice type supply chain that they have created, not only to doctors, but veterinarians. So this could be semaglutide. I think it's going to be a game changer for all pharmacies. They just need to follow a certain, kind of change the way they do business. I spoke to a pharmacist today, just not to change the topic, and she says that in Texas, and they said that now they have a weight loss clinic right in their pharmacy. She had created a weight loss clinic in their in her pharmacy where they actually, they have a scale that, patient comes in, they get consultation about the diet, the pharmacist, she, reviews the patient's, takes their blood pressure, takes their blood sugar, takes their pulse, do all the vitals and, develop some kind of a keto program or Caribbean diet program and things like that. And then combines it with semaglutide. And I was like, hats off to you. I mean, you are doing a fantastic job. And they're actually using our resources through, the RX Reach and ExpediCare and RX Minder to utilize these type of services. So these are great. So I think, our listeners kind of, they got a pretty good idea about what they need to do. I want to thank you, Ken, for sharing your valuable insight today. It's been a pleasure having you on our Profitable Prescription podcast. And we'll look forward to seeing how your pharmacy continues to evolve and serve your community. Okay. And thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you so much for the honor and the respect of having me as a guest.
Hey, no problem. Hopefully we'll have you come more to our podcast. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. And we hope you found this episode insightful. And if you have any questions or topic and you'd like to us to explore into the future episodes, or if you have any suggestions for any future episodes, please don't hesitate to reach us. And once again, thank you, Ken, and have a good day.
Thanks for tuning into the Profitable Prescription Podcast. If you'd like to be a guest on our show, please contact us with the email in the description, and please be sure to like and share our podcast on your favorite playlist directory.